don't freeze your trout. Instead, I got 5 different ways that you can leverage these trout all year long, and they'll produce more things for you than forgetting about them in the freezer until next year. All right, for our number 1 method, our first method here, we're going to take one of our stalker trout, a little bait knife, because these typically aren't super big. I'm thinking these are the size 8 to 9 inch stalkers are perfect for this. We're going to make a couple score marks down to the backbone. Nothing crazy deep, but enough to get a little bit into the meat. And I'll show you why here in just a second. Okay. You will then take your favorite brine. I love this Potski fire brine in the clear. And we're going to add a little bit of this fire dye in the chartreuse to give it some UV. We're making halibut and lingcod candy for the saltwater. You're going to take your trout, throw them in the bag. Obviously preferred with a bunch of them, but we'll show you. I'm going to take this bottle, get it to where we're going to cover that fish. And this dye goes a long ways. Get a couple squirts of that. If you really want to get a little bit extra UV, you can add some of this in too. Allow this thing to marinate up overnight, and we'll show you how this bad boy is going to look. Absolutely deadly for trout and halibut. This will be absolutely killer for halibut and lingcod behind a hoochie rig in the deep water or even in Puget Sound. First way to do it. With this first method, you can make trout baits produce for you and bring home some better eats. For our second method, number 2 here, we're going to use one of our bigger fish. This one's probably about 13 inches roughly. And we're going to make a little crab and crawfish delight. So same thing that we just did with the halibut and lingcod. We're going to cut a little bit of the skin to get into the meat and allow for this to penetrate through and really absorb. And let me tell you, this Potski crab and fuel or shrimp too works amazingly well at being able to draw in a lot of fish to it. In this case, crab and crawfish. So again, filling our bottom of our bag up with our fish. And what's really unique and fun that we have opportunity for is the crawfish opportunity opens up sooner, and the crabbing is later in July. So you can get in on leveraging your trout to make some tasty crawfish boil, and then the other ones can turn into crab boils later in the summer. This will absorb, soak in this crab and shrimp fuel. Is truly one of my secrets, as many others do, but this is amazing for use here in the Northwest or anywhere that you can get crayfish, crabs, shrimp. Just another great way to make these trout work better for you. Now my third method here is going to be something is a fruit of your labor. That is using these fish as fertilizer for your garden. Not every one of these fish is going to be edible. Let's just be honest. Unfortunately, this little guy swallowed the bait, so we kept him. What do you do with something like that? You don't really get a meal out of them. That is a perfect size to put in your garden and be able to get fruit later on. We love doing this in our garden for your vegetables. We've had extremely high yields because we started doing this a few years ago. I've never stopped. That is the best fertilizer, and I will show you exactly how we do this. All right, here's part of our trick to actually making this happen. You're gonna need some garden lime. You're gonna dig your hole for your starts, put that, 10 inches deep. You don't want any critters get into this from the smell of the fish. The garden lime is gonna help kind of hide that smell, but it allows for a lot of good nutrients to come out of it for your plants. And put this down, a little bit of bone meal and some worm castings, and that's all you do. That fish is in the bottom first, garden lime's on top of it to cover it. Very straightforward and simple. Layered in some already for one of our beds, but this produces some of the best yields we have ever gotten by using organic fertilizer that you caught yourself. But wanted just to highlight how cool that these fish don't have to go to waste. They're producing something year round for you, whether it's your fruits and vegetables, however it may be. You can take these really small ones and use them whole for your larger plants like tomatoes and whatnot for your starts. Or, as I like to do, I'll take right behind the dorsal fin and I'll cut these trout in half. I'll save you the headache of seeing that. But then I will cut these up and have these ready to go. And as we get our starts in the garden, I just take a half of the fish, depending on how big they are, put it per each start. It is a booster for your plants to really start off the year right and grow right out of the gate with the proper nutrients. And I tell you what, this truly has been a game changer for us. Just look at these pictures of how our garden turned out by using fish. Now, these last two are going to be how you can leverage the bigger holdover trout for your dinner table. Because let me tell you, if you get the right size fish and they aren't just a fresh stocker, you have a potential chance at getting some quality meat out of this. Some will laugh, some don't eat trout because they don't taste super good. But it all depends on what the fish are eating. Okay? This fish in itself doesn't have the brightest meat. This is a pale planter fish. So it's also in that 13-inch range of being stock size. So this might taste okay, but here's what I mean and how you can get some good things out of it. Okay, you can create your fillet. Use what's usable there. It's not a bad looking fish. Okay, you can take this, smoke it up, make some trout candy, and you can pull all this pin bone section of the ribs, have some decent meat here, get a little sugar brine candy, and I'll show this here in a minute. You can smoke this up and make a trout dip. That really actually is a good use for this. And then you can cut these into strips, and this is what I really like to do. And you use a sweeter brine, and you can make these into candied trout strips. They are extremely good. It almost becomes like a jerky, and is a great way to leverage the nicer fish that you have and not just use them on the barbecue. But speaking of barbecue, you can take these nicer sized trout and throw them on the barbecue or pan fry them if you want. Now, how do I do that? What's my favorite way? Honestly, lemon pepper and butter. You can't go wrong. It's a really light taste, really works well with these trout. And again, the bigger size that have been holdover fish are going to have nicer quality meat. This one, again, not too bad, so it actually will turn out pretty good. But you're going to have some of these fish that do look like the meat is white. That is because they are fresh stock from the hatchery, only eating pellets. I wouldn't recommend necessarily eating those so much. You can, they're just not going to have a ton of flavor. Trout's a type of fish that ends up absorbing whatever you put into it as far as flavors. Lemon pepper is a great one because it really draws in some great quality to the fish. You can use that Montreal steak seasoning as well and put that on the grill, and they are tasty. I will say, I would prefer myself to smoke these fish and then either make a salmon kind of style dip with cream cheese, or we make the candy trout. But that's some awesome ways to leverage your trout so they don't have to go in the freezer. And I have a little bonus tip for you. When you go to make your fish into a brine or smoking them or even cooking them, and you're left with a couple decent little fillets over there, and you got this backbone and don't know what to do with it, check this out. Take your crab or shrimp fuel, throw this whole thing in there. You're creating a bonus to really soak up all those juices, and that is just going to absolutely go wild for these fish. Or in addition, you can leverage and put that in the garden too. It doesn't hurt it either way, but it's such a fantastic use to not let anything go to waste. And I love making all of our fishing adventures pay itself forward throughout the year, whether it's yielding in our garden, whether it's a little bit of nice dinner or a really nice dip to share with the family, or how about get some bigger fish later on? A lingcod or a halibut, crab or a crawfish. Which of the five was your favorite? If you have another one that you like to use, comment below. Would love to hear about it. And if you want to learn a secret technique that's been forgotten about for catching stocker trout, check out the video we just did right here. It's going to catch you a ton more fish. Tight lines and fish on!